So a little bit about our practice. We do investigations and background screening, and again, the topic of this conversation is what you don't know can hurt you. And our theme is kind of know everything. Within our business, we work throughout the life cycle of businesses. You think about from startup to growth to acquisitions to developing brand and IP to exit. At all of those different touch points, there's an investigation potential in there. And so I kind of want to touch on kind of what that looks like, and then I'll obviously open up for questions at the end. So a couple specialty areas that we do is IP and brand protection and a lot of risk mitigation, as well as the background screening services that Nicole's going to talk about a little bit later on. So a little bit about me, been doing this for a long time. We do some expert witness work. Licensed private investigator, because people will say, are you a PI? Yes, that's what I am. And our firm is a licensed investigation firm as well. So what that means is we can do investigative work in the state of California and abroad, and our report should hold up in court. As the attorneys in the room can attest, a lot of times the clients don't even ask about that until there's a deposition or trial or some testimony is required. But that's kind of what we do, court-ready investigation reports. Our theme kind of is know everything, right? We need our clients to know everything before they go into a deposition, when they're in the midst of litigation, when they're trying to collect on a judgment, they're defending an employer, whatever the situation might be, they need to be armed with as much information as possible, as quickly as possible. And again, who do we work with, right? So people are always like, well, who are your clients? Most of the time, our clients, we're in a B2B context. We do work with clients in the individual consumers, especially in the family law space, when family law attorneys bring us in and they want us to work directly with their clients. But this kind of gives you a sense of who we kind of work with generally. A lot of attorneys and brand owners. Usually when litigation is anticipated, is in process, or we're in a negotiation or settlement kind of situation. A few of the firms that we work with, just to prove that we're legitimate right now, I'm just kidding. And so within our toolbox of things that we offer, there's a lot of different services that we do, and they're applied against different things. Sometimes it's developing litigation research. It could be developing information on someone who saying they're not working elsewhere. So it's kind of a sense of all the different things that we do in the litigation process as it relates to discreetly uncovering information. Nicole's going to get into the employment background screening, which is totally different, right? We need authorizations, disclosures. It's more upfront, a lot more compliance. In the investigative world, we have to have a permissible reason, but there's a lot of things we can do discreetly to uncover information about a defendant, a witness, a litigant, or even someone that may be of interest in a case. And uncovering information about individuals and businesses, wherever they may be, just so you guys have a sense of what it is that we actually do. We do everything. Most people anticipate that we're going around in a sports car with binoculars and chasing people down. And we often do that, but usually it's not as prevalent as what you would think. So creating contextual investigations with a legal plan where the evidence is going to work for our clients in court and hold up under different codes and procedures in civil litigation, probate, and all these different family law situations. So, in family law, as an example, people want to get a setup DUI because they want to get the person arrested so that for DUI, so they can get leveraging a custody case. Is it possible and ethical? Yes. Is it probable? No. Is it recommended? No. Do people want it? Yes, as an example. So you have to be mindful of kind of those kind of ethical guidelines, things that we can do. So feel free to stop me at any time if you guys have any questions or if something doesn't quite make sense or if I misspelled anything. Typically, when do we get called, right? After an accident, an insurance claim, something bad has happened, right? Unfortunately, a mass shooting, you name it, when something really bad happens, usually there's litigation and insurance claims that are involved, and that's gonna result in some sort of litigation that involves an investigation. We do a lot of work in the counterfeiting space, infringement, especially after a judgment is awarded or when people are anticipated in receiving a judgment. We just had a client out in the Palm Desert area, just secured a settlement in a financial elder abuse case, $121 million. And these people had done a lot of work on the front end to hide all the assets to avoid collection, but we were working on it for a couple of years to try and document the process that they had kind of fraudulently conveyed assets in anticipation of litigation and judgment, as an example. We also get involved when employers detect fraud, whether it's workers' comp or potentially employers are detecting that employees are working two jobs, you name it. as well as kind of during and after M&A transactions when it comes to developing information on the parties that are involved, key employees, and so forth. Where do we work? Nationally known, global reach. We work online in the streets. We do a lot of work from our office here in Orange County, and we also have a network of people throughout the country, and we even have capabilities beyond that. We have a partner in China, Ion Asia, for supply chain and counterfeiting issues, as well as kind of a nationwide network, Mexico, South America, when those things come up. And again, why do people hire us? Really, it comes down to a couple things, right? Evidence does matter. You need court-ready reports. They need to have a licensed investigator so that when a client invests a lot of time and energy with us, the results are going to hold up in court. And we've kind of been through litigation. We've been deposed, we prepared declarations, we provide expert testimony, and that's what you need when it comes to retaining an investigation firm. So I will turn it over to Nicole.
All right, so he gets to do all the fun stuff. I get to do all the compliance stuff. So I oversee the pre-employment leg of the business. As Tim mentioned, there's a lot more compliance in that. So a few of our major organizations that we work with, again, nationwide, anywhere in the United States, we can work with the employer. So the process. So you have to have in California a conditional offer of employment before you do a background check. That's not the case in every state in the United States, but we're in California, so that's kind of how we function. So you can't just do a background check, you have to have that conditional offer. I remember, when we were growing up, they ran several background checks, and then they decided based on the background check who to hire. That's not the case. Conditional offer has to be there. We work off of a third-party platform for our pre-employment background screening. It's an online service, and it is compliant. So we are going to have our clients initiate a background check. It's going to send an invitation to their applicant where they're going to sign the disclosures and the authorizations that are needed for the background check electronically and give all that data in a secure way through our system. That compliance is all built in from the beginning with the disclosures and authorizations to the end to the pre-adverse action letters, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment. So what do we report? So compliance. We must adhere to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So that is a federal law that protects consumers by controlling how that information is assessed and used for employment purposes. So we have a federal law, but then besides the federal law, there are individual states that have additional laws. California is one of them. There are cities and counties within California that have more additional laws on top of that. So one of the things about our online system is it's going to keep your client and you compliant in ensuring that all of the disclosures and authorizations based on the state and the city that they're employed in will be provided and signed. But at the end of the day, what do we report? We report information that you and your client can legally use to make a hiring decision. So you don't go on Google and look up the information and decide not to hire someone based on what you saw on their social media profiles. You hire Santoni Backgrounds Investigations, we do a compliant background check for you. So the rules. So in California, we're a 7-year convictions only state. That's not every state in the United States, but because we're in California, that's what we adhere to. Also, we as Santoni Backgrounds will provide 10 years of information, up to 10 years of information outside of California as a rule. Sex offender registry limitations, I think I need to go to Tim on this one. You want to talk just real briefly on the sex offender limitations?
Oh yeah, just in California especially, I think it's important to understand people assume that if someone's a sex offender that they can't be working or they should be declined as far as an opportunity. The employer is responsible to do an assessment to determine if there's a sensitive population, elder, in-house care. They have to be impacted. If they're working as a warehouse worker in a manufacturing company, even being a sex offender cannot be an obstacle or should not be. There may be another reason why you would pass on them and not use that as your example as a matter of course, but people just assume that if they're on that list that they're not going to be able to work, and that's not necessarily the case here in California.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So that's the compliance end of it. I'm the sales, so sometimes I get a little lost in that. But the rules also regarding adverse action. So as he was mentioned, you maybe just can't not hire someone because they're a sex offender. You can't just look at a background check and decide they have a DUI or have some sort of information on their background check, and you're just not going to hire them and you're going to move on. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you have to follow the adverse action process. It's kind of complicated. I don't want to get into it with you per se, but it basically is a two-step process that you have to notify the applicant that a background check, well, they know a background check has been run, but provide them the information, the completed report, a summary of the rights, and give them an opportunity to dispute that information, review and dispute that information, and then follow up with a second letter that says we're not going to hire you based on that information should they not dispute it. Landscape. So beware of instant background checks. There are so many times I'll have somebody say, oh, well, we get our report back same day. Well, if you get a report back the same day, likely it's not compliant with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or they're not really doing a deep dive and looking at the counties and the jurisdictions where the applicant has lived. Instant background check typically means just a database search. It's very quick, and to be honest with you, it's junk. Identity verification, that's something that's come out. It's been around, but we've really been pushing it lately. You were talking about VID in this one, right?
Identity verification?
Yeah, so essentially what that is allowing at the front end that we're going to be able to verify who your applicant is based on their government issued ID. So this new software, this new program is going to do a scan of their face and a scan of their ID, ensure that the ID is valid and that the biometrics match, and that we are actually screening the person. We have had situations in the past where we've run a full-blown background check on a person, and come to find out that person gave the wrong name, the wrong social, the wrong date of birth. We did a full-on background check of her husband, not of her. So we don't know that, we're just given the information. So that's really important.
Yeah, and to add to that, part of the reason about it is with all the AI introductions of different modifications of documents, a lot of employers are like, well, they give me their driver's license, so they give me these documents, but they're not necessarily able to verify that they're authentic. And so this is a way to verify that we have the right person before we move through that process,
right.
Even to the point where they'll use a social security number for the background check that differs from that when they go for onboarding. And the HR person doesn't always catch that because they're not necessarily looking to compare those numbers, and then it becomes a real problem because of the fact that you screened the wrong person.
Tim, go on into the California date of birth redaction.
Oh yeah, just to follow up, so as far as instant background checks, Nicole was speaking about that. In California, there's a case out in Riverside called Hamrick. It was a privacy case which forced our courts here in the state of California to remove full dates of birth and driver's license numbers from their indexes and from their systems of record. So what that forces is that on-site research is required to verify information when records are found based on a full name and full date of birth. What this means is it's more costly, more expensive, more time-consuming, hence the fact that if you're doing an instant background check, there's no way that can happen because if they're not actually checking certain courts like Sacramento, San Diego, and others that require on-site, it's impossible to even get a clear search based on that. And so there's some efforts in the industry to kind of overturn that, but it's going to be very challenging.
Go on to the next point and then we'll move on.
Yeah, and as far as employers that are based in California and New York, could be the most challenging area. In California, obviously, following adverse action processes, having authorizations, disclosures based on the person's where they're going to be working. If they're in Los Angeles, San Francisco, even cities, counties where they work, there's different rules to follow, both on the authorization process and the adverse action process as far as assessing what records are found. In New York, even in more complex, I won't get into the details of it, but if you have an employer in New York, they need to do a two-step process. You can't do the background check and the verifications all in the same step. It's just a further effort to avoid discriminating from not hiring someone. So they've implemented these rules that make things more complicated. But just be aware, because if an employer is based in California, but they're expanding and growing and they hire someone who's going to be working in New York, those rules still apply.
Yeah. Okay, so into the meat of what I do and what I sell on a daily basis. So to look at the components of a background check, my standard background check is going to run a social security trace address history. So basically what this is, and let me tell you what it is. So it is going to pull back names and addresses that your applicant has used or applied for credit in the last 7 years. So it's basically looking at credit headers. One of the things to know about a background check is not based on someone's social security number. That's a big misconception in my world. It is name-based. The Social Security is used to pull names and pull addresses that they've used, and it's a tool that we use to then further do our search. So next, we're going to do a multi-jurisdictional criminal database. This just scans the nation for any convictions that have been reported to it. It includes a 50-state sex offender and a global report, which is going to be like watch list type of thing. It is not where you stop. That's your instant background check. That's not where you stop. You're going to dig deeper, and you're going to do a county criminal record search for every county your applicant has lived in the last 7 years. So if they lived in Orange County, and a county in Ohio, and a county in Pennsylvania, those are the counties we're going to go search. That's real-time information directly from the courthouse. Then we're going to do a driving report. It's going to pull back and tell us whether it's a valid license, suspension, whether there's DUIs, and it's going to give us a true legal name as shown as a government-issued ID and their date of birth. So that's a standard criminal record search. I have found, though, that I am now selling the complete background check more often than not. It used to be that this is an executive level position screen. The only difference in this search is that it's going to include federal criminal records. So these are the fun ones: white collar crimes, tax evasion, bank robbery, embezzlement, any crime that passes state lines. The likelihood of someone having a federal offense is really low, but when they have it, it's really juicy. So.
And just to add something about there, most people think that when you run a multi-jurisdictional national search that federal's included, and it's absolutely not. Separate system. Unfortunately, the federal cases, because of the way that they are filed, are what we call Googleable searches. So if someone does something really bad and the employer does a search and their name pops up, and then they call us and they say, well, why didn't you find this? Well, we recommended you do a federal search, but you thought that it wasn't worthwhile. Those are the ones that usually show up, and usually it's when their clients, customers do those searches on these employees or people they're working with, and they get the phone call. Why is this guy working with me? Why is this person involved in your business? And they're like, oh my gosh. So.
And it happens. So for that reason, I'm really, really pushing and educating my clients on that federal search and hoping that they all include it. Addition to that, base criminal package, we're going to do things like verification of employment and education, verify their professional license. We'll even do reference checks. Lots of companies are implementing social media screenings, and we can also do drug-based or drugs tests as well as some other occupational health services. Any other add-ons you can think of?
Just on the social media front, we all know that HR professionals are doing social media searches. They're doing it on their own. This is not what we're doing. This is an FCRA compliant social media that requires 3 matching identifiers. We're only reporting back information that's not going to cause them to discriminate based on a variety of factors: age, race, religion, those types of things. Gives them a score, and it also highlights images and different things that their attention should be called to. So that's how that works.
And to that note too, we can customize the social media search. So if the client is specifically looking for a keyword that's important to them, we can add those keywords into the search. How long and how much? So in 2025, our agency average turnaround was 2 days. So very quick. That doesn't mean that every report comes back that fast. We have a lot of complications when it comes to California and those courts, especially regarding the date of birth redaction. When we have a common name with a lot of hits in a county that requires someone to walk in and hand them the request, that can certainly take longer. We're very good at keeping our clients updated. After 72 hours, if you don't have a completed report, we start notifying you and giving you an ETA of that. Average cost of background, it can vary. Last year it was $58. If you are searching your applicant's primary name, that's one thing I didn't mention earlier, their current name, then $58 is really great average. But it's very important that you search your applicants, all the names they've used in the last 7 years. So if you have a female who's been married 2 or 3 times, it's very important that you search those additional names, because that could be the name. However, if you've had a gentleman that has used an alias name, that's very important. The other thing too is when we run the social trace, we pull back and we see names that they've used for credit history, based on their credit history. If they don't give the other name that they've used and you tell us search all names, we're going to find that name through the social trace and we're going to uncover the records. And we've done it on multiple occasions. We've had people who lived in California, have lots of offenses there, move to Florida, try to escape those offenses, and we find them. So really important to search those additional names. Who is our ideal client? Who is my ideal client? So any organization that has to ensure compliance, they have to search for this XYZ specific search. Healthcare, IT, finance. We do a lot of work with construction companies, professional services. But really, my ideal client is any employer who is hiring. So our resources, we have lots of, our HR screening help desk. So this is a free tool that we offer to our clients when you onboard with us. It allows you to access all of the rules and regulations under background screening. You want to expand on that a little bit, Tim?
Yeah, just a help desk to look up different rules and regulations in whatever state the employer is operating in or where those applicants are.
Yeah, it can be very
quick
complicated.
Reference, kind of breaks down all those laws into kind of a digestible, way to make a good decision about a specific hiring situation.
Yeah, and HR consultants, we love our HR consultants. We have built partnerships with many of them where they trust us with their clients. We bring their clients on board. They service them. We service them. So HR consultants are great resources for us. And our employment attorneys send us a lot of business as well. So now you know everything. Any questions? Yeah.